I never set out to start a war with an HOA. Honestly, if you'd asked me a year ago what a homeowners association even did all day, I probably would have said something about measuring grass and sending passive-aggressive emails about trash cans. That was about the extent of my interest. Then one Monday morning, I walked outside with a cup of coffee in my hand and discovered that a group of strangers had effectively trapped me on my own property. And that's when everything changed. My name is Ethan Cole, and for almost 11 years, I lived on a piece of land just outside a neighborhood called Cedar Ridge Preserve. Now, Cedar Ridge was one of those places where everything looked perfect from the outside. Every mailbox matched. Every lawn looked like it had been cut with surgical equipment. Even the flower beds seemed coordinated somehow, like there was a committee approving tulip colors. My place was different. I had a gravel driveway, a detached workshop, a rusty old pickup I refused to get rid of, and a golden retriever named Murphy who considered every squirrel in 3 counties a personal enemy. I wasn't rich. I wasn't fancy, but I owned my land outright. And after spending years working construction jobs all over the state, having a quiet place to come home to felt like winning the lottery. For more than a decade, life was simple. Then came that Monday. I still remember the sound. Metal striking metal. Sharp. Close. Not background noise. Not something happening a mile away. The kind of sound that makes you stop halfway through your first sip of coffee and listen. At first, I figured it was a utility crew. Maybe somebody was repairing a line. Maybe a delivery truck got stuck. Out where I lived, weird things happen all the time. But something fell off. The noise kept coming. Steady. Purposeful. Like people building something. So I stepped outside and immediately knew something was wrong. 3 work trucks sat across the dirt access road that connected my property to the county highway. Men in safety vests were unloading lumber. Steel posts. Concrete bags. One guy was already digging holes. Another was measuring distances. And stretching across the road was the beginning of a barricade. At first, my brain refused to process it. I just stood there, coffee cooling in my hand, watching, trying to understand what exactly I was looking at. Then reality finally caught up. They weren't repairing anything. They were blocking the road. My road. I started walking toward them. Fussed, the gravel crunching under my boots. "Hey," I called out. A few workers looked up. "What's going on here?" One guy straightened up and wiped sweat from his forehead. "Road closure." That was it. Road closure. Like he was telling me today's weather forecast. "What do you mean, road closure?" He pointed toward the construction. "HOA order." I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because it made absolutely no sense. Hawaii, Cedar Ridge, that's what the paperwork says. I stared at him. Then I pointed down the road. "My property is down there." He nodded. "Okay. No, I don't think you understand. That's my access road." He shrugged. "Not anymore." Something about the way he said it bothered me more than the actual words. There wasn't any anger. No attitude. No argument. Just certainty. Like the decision had already been made and my opinion didn't matter. By noon, the barricade was finished. Fresh white lumber. Heavy support posts. A steel chain across the center. And bolted right in the middle was a sign that looked brand new. "Private community access, authorized residents only." I stood there staring at it for a long time. The road behind, it was the same road I'd used almost every day for 11 years. The same road delivery trucks used. The same road emergency vehicles would need if something happened. The same road that had existed long before most of Cedar Ridge was even built. Yet somehow, overnight, it had become forbidden. I pulled out my phone and called the number printed at the bottom of the sign. The call connected after 2 rings. Cedar Ridge Homeowners Association. The voice sounded smooth, professional, controlled, the kind of voice that belonged to someone who enjoyed being in charge. "This is Graham Whitaker." I introduced myself, then explained exactly what I was looking at. There was a brief pause. Not surprise, not confusion, just a pause. Then he said, "Yes, Mr. Cole, I'm aware of the situation." Aware. That word hit me harder than it should have. "You're aware?" I asked. "That road is my only access point." The board reviewed the matter extensively. I felt my stomach tighten. Reviewed. Discussed. Voted on. Meaning this wasn't an accident. It wasn't a misunderstanding. They had planned this. Every bit of it. And judging by the calm confidence in his voice, they never expected me to push back. What I didn't realize standing there beside that barricade was that Graham Whitaker had just made the biggest mistake of his life. Because 3 days later, while digging through a dusty box that hadn't been opened in over a decade, I was going to find something that would turn his entire neighborhood upside down. And when the county construction crews finally arrived a few weeks later, the first phone call he made was going to be to me. The day it happened started like any other. Quiet, cool air, a little fog hanging over the fields. I was standing outside with Murphy, coffee in hand, when I heard the sound. Not hammers, not chains, diesel engines, heavy ones. I looked towards Cedar Ridge and saw the first convoy rolling in. Survey trucks, excavators, grading equipment, county vehicles, the kind of machinery that doesn't show up unless somebody has already signed a lot of paperwork. I won't lie, I stood there smiling. Not because I enjoyed what was about to happen. At least that's what I kept telling myself. But because for the first time since that barricade went up, I wasn't the one scrambling for answers. I already knew exactly what was happening. The county had approved development of the public right-of-way, and that right-of-way ran directly through the center of Cedar Ridge Preserve. By mid-morning, workers were setting markers. Spray paint appeared on curbs. Property corners were flagged. Sections of decorative landscaping were being measured. Residents started gathering outside. People pointed, asked questions, made phone calls. The confusion spread house by house like a weather front moving across town. Then my phone rang. I looked at the screen. Graham Whitaker. I actually laughed. Murphy looked up at me like I had finally lost my mind. I answered. Ethan. His voice sounded different. Less polished. Less confident. What exactly is happening? I glanced toward an excavator positioning itself near one of the neighborhood entrances. You tell me. This isn't funny. No, I said. It really isn't. There was a pause. Long enough for both of us to understand the conversation wasn't going where he wanted. These crews are claiming the county is developing a roadway. They are. You filed this request. Not a question. A statement. I leaned against my truck. I followed the process. That easement hasn't been used in decades. Still existed. You knew this would affect the neighborhood. I looked across the road at workers unloading equipment. Then I remembered carrying groceries through weeds. Parking nearly a mile away. Standing in my own driveway, wondering what would happen if I needed emergency help. And I remembered something else. His exact words. That is not our responsibility. So I answered. You know, Graham, that's funny. What? I said the same thing about your barricade. Silence. Complete silence. Then finally he said, much quieter this time, you're doing this out of spite. I thought about that. Really thought about it. Maybe a small part of me was. I won't pretend otherwise. But that wasn't the whole story. No, I said. I'm doing it because property rights work both ways. He hung up. The construction continued. And once it started, there was no stopping it. Weeks turned into months. The transformation happened in stages. First came clearing, then grading, then drainage work, then paving. Every step made the project more real, more permanent. And with every passing week, the atmosphere inside Cedar Ridge changed. The neighborhood had always been built around one idea. Control. Control the appearance. Control the traffic. Control the people. Control the environment. Now that control was slipping away. Slowly at first. Then all at once. When a roadway finally opened, it connected two busy county routes that had never previously been linked directly. Drivers discovered it almost immediately. Navigation apps picked it up. Delivery services found it. Commuters started using it. What had once been a quiet, insulated neighborhood suddenly became a convenient shortcut. Morning traffic arrived first. Then afternoon traffic. Then evening traffic. Headlights crossed living room windows. Engine noise replaced birdsong. Cars rolled through at every hour of the day. Not hundreds. Thousands. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same neighborhood that had fought so hard to keep one outsider off their roads now had roads that belonged to everyone. A few weeks later, I received another call. This time it wasn't Graham. It was a woman named Denise Parker, one of the board members. Her tone was softer, more diplomatic. The kind of voice people use when Plan A has exploded and they're hoping Plan B still has a pulse. Ethan, she said, we'd like to discuss a possible resolution. I already knew where this was going. She explained that the HOA was willing to remove the barricade immediately. They would improve my original access route, pay for paving, install drainage, even contribute toward landscaping improvements around my property. A year earlier, I probably would have accepted before she finished speaking. But things look different now, because this was never really about a road. It was about respect. It was about what happens when people get so accustomed to power that they stop considering consequences. I listened politely. Then I asked one question. Where was all this cooperation when I was trapped on my own property? She didn't answer. Not really. Nobody ever did. Eventually, she asked if I was willing to negotiate. I looked out across the newly opened county road. Cars passed steadily. The project was complete. The decision had already been made. And unlike theirs, this one affected everyone. No, I said. The call ended shortly afterward. That was the last serious conversation I ever had with the HOA. Today, I still live on the same property. Same workshop. Same gravel driveway. Same dog. Although Murphy has gotten older and considerably lazier. The barricade is long gone. The road through Cedar Ridge remains. And every now and then, usually early in the morning when the sunlight hits the pavement just right, I'll stand outside with a cup of coffee and watch the traffic move through. Not because I enjoy it. Honestly, some days I don't. But because it reminds me of something important. People love control. They love having authority. They love making decisions for other people. Right up until those decisions create consequences they never expected. Now here's the part I'm still not completely sure about. Maybe Cedar Ridge had legitimate concerns. Maybe they genuinely believed they were protecting their community. Maybe they thought they were doing the right thing. But they never tried talking to me. Never tried compromise. Never tried solving the problem like neighbors. They jumped straight to force. And once they did, they set everything else in motion. So I'm curious what you think. Was I justified for pushing back the way I did? Did the HOA deserve the outcome they got? Or should I have accepted their offer and helped restore the neighborhood after the road was approved? Let me know down in the comments. Because depending on where you're standing, this story is either about accountability or revenge. And sometimes those two things look a lot more alike than people want to admit.